Jasmine's hands trembled as she approached the front of the classroom, her heart pounding in her chest. Her classmates' whispers filled the room, some of them mocking her, others just waiting for the inevitable failure. She glanced at Mr. Davidson, who was standing by the board, his eyes full of skepticism. The equation on the board was a monster, a calculus problem that had already sent the brightest students in the class into a panic. No one had solved it yet, and they all assumed Jasmine wouldn't be able to either. "All right, Jasmine," Mr. Davidson said, his tone laced with disbelief. "You think you can solve this?" Jasmine felt the weight of the room press down on her. She wasn't prepared for this. She wasn't prepared for anything today, really. Math had never been her strength, and she had never been the one to speak up in class. She was quiet, invisible, and had spent most of the year keeping her head down, trying to avoid drawing attention. But somehow, today, fate had decided otherwise. Now, standing in front of her classmates, she had no choice but to face their judgment. The equation on the board seemed to mock her. It was long, complex, and utterly incomprehensible to someone like her. She could already hear the murmurs in the back of the room. Ryan, the class clown, was already rolling his eyes, clearly eager to see her fail. "I'll give you 2 minutes, Jasmine," Mr. Davidson continued, crossing his arms over his chest. "Let's see what you've got." The room fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the faint sound of chalk against the board. Jasmine grabbed a piece of chalk, her hand shaking slightly as she wrote the first part of the equation. She could feel the heat of the students' eyes on her. Ryan's sarcastic chuckle echoed in her ears as he leaned back in his chair. "Oh, this should be good," Ryan muttered, just loud enough for everyone to hear. Jasmine wanted to shrink into herself. She wanted to run out of the classroom and escape the stairs. But something inside her stopped her. She couldn't explain it, but in that moment, something clicked. Something deep inside her stirred, and the usual self-doubt that filled her mind faded away. She stared at the equation for a moment longer, her eyes unfocusing as her mind worked in ways she couldn't describe. And then it happened. She started writing. At first, it was slow and hesitant, as though she were unsure of what she was doing. But with each line, something strange occurred. The numbers and variables began to make sense. She didn't think about the next step, she just did it. Her hand moved fluidly across the board, writing with a confidence she didn't know she had. The students were silent now, their eyes glued to her every movement. She could feel their disbelief, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. It was like something was pulling her forward, urging her to finish. Mr. Davidson's voice broke through her focus, his tone sharp. "Jasmine, what exactly are you doing?" Jasmine didn't respond. She simply finished the last part of the equation and stepped back. The chalk hung loosely in her hand as she looked at the board. The room was still quiet, too quiet. For a second, she thought maybe she had made a mistake, maybe she had missed something, but when she looked at the equation again, she saw it. It was solved. She had solved it. Her breath caught in her throat as the realization hit her. She had done something that seemed impossible. She had solved the equation that no one else could, and yet, it felt effortless. Her eyes flicked nervously to Mr. Davidson. He was staring at the board, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Is this right?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine couldn't answer. She was too stunned to say anything. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from the adrenaline that coursed through her body. How had she done it? She couldn't explain it. She had just followed something inside her, something that had guided her step by step. There was no time to process it, though. Ryan broke the silence, his voice filled with disbelief and anger. "This is a joke, right? You can't possibly have solved that. It's impossible." Jasmine turned to face him, her breath shallow. Ryan was on his feet now, glaring at her. The class was still silent, all eyes on her. She felt the pressure mounting, but she stood her ground. I don't know how," she admitted quietly, her voice shaking. "I just did it." Ryan scoffed and walked up to the board, his hand swiping through the chalk marks as he looked over the equation. He muttered to himself, checking the steps. The class waited, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. Jasmine watched as Ryan's eyes widened in shock. He stopped mid-sentence and took a step back, staring at the board with an almost panicked expression. "Wait a minute," he said, his voice low. "How did you?" Before he could finish, Mr. Davidson stepped forward, his voice commanding. "Ryan, sit down." Ryan didn't argue. He muttered something under his breath and returned to his seat, his face a mix of frustration and disbelief. The room remained deathly quiet. Jasmine turned to Mr. Davidson, who was still staring at the equation. He was clearly struggling to make sense of what had just happened. "Jasmine," he said slowly, his voice full of astonishment, this is correct." The words hit Jasmine like a tidal wave. She had done it. But the shock of it all was too much to process. She wanted to sink into the floor, to disappear. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to be the one who solved the impossible. But she had. The bell rang, signaling the end of class. The students immediately gathered their things and headed for the door, their conversations a blur in Jasmine's ears. She was still standing there, frozen in place. She couldn't move. As the last student exited the room, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Emma, one of the few students who had ever shown her any kindness. "Jasmine, wait," Emma said softly, her expression serious. "Are you okay?" Jasmine nodded, though her mind was still racing. "I don't know. I can't explain it." Emma studied her for a moment, her eyes narrowing as if she were weighing something in her mind. "Listen, something's going on. This wasn't just some fluke. You need to talk to someone about this." Jasmine shook her head, confused. "What do you mean? I don't understand." Emma leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. "I can't say too much now, but you're not the only one who's noticed something strange. And it's not just about math. Be careful. Trust no one." Before Jasmine could respond, Emma was already walking away, her pace quickening as she disappeared into the hallway. Jasmine stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Was Emma trying to warn her about something? About what? Her heart raced again as unease settled in her stomach. There was something bigger at play here, something that went far beyond a simple calculus equation. As she grabbed her things and left the classroom, her mind was buzzing. She needed answers. But what had she stepped into? And who was Emma really? Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Jasmine couldn't get Emma's words out of her mind. Be careful. Trust no one. The phrase repeated itself over and over in her head like a warning bell she couldn't silence. The echo of that message followed her as she made her way to her next class, each step heavy with a sense of foreboding she hadn't felt before. She sat down in her seat, but her mind wasn't on the lesson. It wasn't even on the usual anxiety she felt during a class. Today, it was different. Something had shifted. The whole world around her had subtly changed. How had she solved that equation? The math had been too advanced for her, too complex. It didn't make sense. And Emma's cryptic warning, what was that about? As the bell rang and the next class began, Jasmine found herself unable to focus. Her thoughts were elsewhere. She kept replaying the moment in her calculus class, the exact moment she had written out the solution with an almost instinctive certainty. It wasn't just solving the equation, it was how easy it had felt. The confidence she had felt, the sudden clarity. It was like she had tapped into something buried deep inside her, something powerful and unexplainable. Her phone buzzed in her bag, snapping her out of her thoughts. She quickly checked it. A message from her older sister, Lara. How did it go with that calculus test? Hope it was easy. Let me know what they say. Jasmine felt a pang of guilt. She hadn't told Lara about the whole incident. Lara had always been the confident, popular one. Jasmine had always been the quiet, overlooked sister who preferred to keep a low profile. She wasn't the type to suddenly draw attention to herself, especially in the way she had earlier that day. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she tucked her phone away and tried to focus on the lesson. It didn't work. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the equation, back to the moment when she had solved it effortlessly. And then, as if out of nowhere, the idea came to her: what if it wasn't just about math? What if there was more to it than that? What if this was the start of something bigger? What if Emma's warning had meant more than she'd let on? As soon as the bell rang, signaling the end of the class, Jasmine gathered her things quickly. She needed answers, and she needed them now. She couldn't just let this go. Not after what had happened. She made her way out of the classroom, her pace quickening as she passed students chatting and laughing about their plans for the weekend. She hardly noticed them. Her mind was still spinning. It wasn't until she stepped into the hallway that she saw Emma again. She was standing by the lockers, looking around cautiously as if waiting for someone. "Emma!" Jasmine called out, her voice barely a whisper, but enough to catch Emma's attention. Emma's eyes widened in recognition, but there was a flicker of hesitation in her expression. She quickly glanced down the hallway before motioning for Jasmine to come closer. "We need to talk," she said, her voice urgent. Jasmine followed her to a quiet corner of the hallway, away from the noise of the students. "What's going on?" Jasmine asked, her voice laced with both curiosity and concern. "You've got to tell me what this is all about. Why did you warn me like that?" Emma took a deep breath, her expression serious. She glanced around again before speaking. "Listen, Jasmine, I know this is going to sound crazy, but what happened today in class wasn't a coincidence. You didn't just solve that equation because you're suddenly good at math. There's more to it, a lot more." Jasmine's mind raced. "What do you mean? How could I have done that if it wasn't me solving it?" Emma's eyes flickered with a mix of fear and caution. "There's something unusual about you, Jasmine. I've been watching you for a while now, and I think you've just unlocked something. Something that's been dormant inside you." Jasmine frowned. "I don't understand. What are you talking about?" Emma sighed, her shoulders slumping as if she were about to share something she wasn't sure Jasmine was ready to hear. "You're not just some random student. You're part of something bigger. Something that's been going on for a long time." Jasmine felt a cold chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" "There's a group. A secret one," Emma continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They've been watching you. They've been watching all of us. And they've been waiting for someone like you to show up." Jasmine shook her head, confused. "What group? Why would anyone be watching me?" Emma glanced around again, her eyes darting nervously. "I don't have all the answers yet, Jasmine, but I think you're part of a much bigger plan. Something that involves your abilities." "My abilities?" Jasmine echoed. "I don't have any abilities. I just solved a math problem. That's all." Emma's expression was intense. "No. You don't get it. What you did today was just the tip of the iceberg. You've got something inside you, something that makes you more than ordinary. And that's what they're after." Jasmine's stomach twisted. She was starting to feel nauseous. She had to sit down. "Who is they? What do you mean, more than ordinary?" Emma looked around again, her eyes filled with urgency. "I can't explain everything right now, but I promise you, I'll help you figure it out. Just know that you're not alone in this." Before Jasmine could respond, Emma was already walking away, disappearing into the crowd of students. Jasmine stood frozen, her mind in turmoil. She felt like she had just stepped into a world she wasn't ready for. A world that was dangerous and full of secrets. The following days were a blur for Jasmine. She kept her head down, attending classes and doing her best to keep up with the lessons, but the thought of Emma's words lingered in the back of her mind. "You've got something inside you." She couldn't shake the feeling that something was happening, something beyond her understanding. She had always been a quiet, ordinary student. Nothing special. But now things were changing. The equation she had solved was just the beginning. She could feel it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a text from Lara. "How's school going? You sound kind of off lately. What's wrong?" Jasmine hesitated for a moment before responding. "Everything's fine. Just tired. I'll talk to you soon." She put her phone away, but the unease gnawed at her. Lara didn't know anything about the strange feeling Jasmine had been dealing with since the math incident. She didn't know about the cryptic warning from Emma or the sense that something was slowly unraveling in her life. The next morning, as Jasmine walked into school, she noticed something strange. There was an unusual sense of tension in the air, like everyone knew something she didn't. The usual buzz of conversation was replaced by whispers and hurried glances. It was only when she walked into her calculus class that she understood why. There, on the front desk, was a note. It was simple, but the handwriting sent a chill down her spine. "We know what you did. Meet us after school." The note was unsigned, but Jasmine's heart raced. Who had written this? And who were they? As the bell rang, Jasmine tried to focus on the lesson, but she couldn't concentrate. The note was a constant weight in her mind. Who was watching her? And why? When the final bell rang, signaling the end of the day, Jasmine felt her legs go weak. She knew she had to go. She had no choice. But what awaited her after school? And was she ready to face it? Jasmine's heart raced as she stood outside the school gates, staring at the note clutched tightly in her hand. "Meet us after school," it had said. The words felt like a cold punch to her gut, but she couldn't back out now. Everything had led to this moment. She had to find out who was behind this. Who were these people who seemed to know things about her, things she didn't even understand herself? The bell rang, signaling the end of the day, and Jasmine slowly made her way to the designated meeting spot, a secluded bench near the back of the school, tucked away behind the gymnasium. The path was eerily quiet, the sounds of students laughing and chatting growing more distant as she walked. Her thoughts were racing, and every step she took seemed to echo loudly in her mind. When she arrived at the bench, there was no one in sight. She hesitated for a moment, wondering if she'd been set up, if this was all some cruel joke. But the weight of the note in her hand told her it was real. Someone wanted to meet her. A rustling sound behind her made her spin around, and there, standing in the shadows, was a figure. A tall, cloaked figure who stepped into the fading light, revealing a face she hadn't expected. It was Emma. "Jasmine," Emma said softly, her eyes scanning the area nervously. "I'm glad you came." Jasmine felt a surge of relief and confusion all at once. She had expected to meet someone, maybe even a stranger, but not Emma. You were the one who left the note?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Emma nodded. "I know this is a lot to take in, but you have to listen carefully. There's something you need to understand, something about your abilities." Jasmine's chest tightened. "I don't know what you mean. I'm just an ordinary student. I'm not special." Emma took a step forward, her face serious. "You're not ordinary, Jasmine. You never have been. You're part of something much bigger than you realize. And the sooner you accept that, the safer you'll be." Jasmine swallowed hard. What is this? What do you want from me? Emma's gaze softened, but only slightly. It's not about what I want. It's about what you need to understand. You've been chosen, Jasmine. Chosen for a reason. Chosen? For what? Jasmine asked, her voice barely a whisper. She felt like she was in a dream, one she couldn't wake up from. There's a secret group. They've been watching you. And they've been waiting for the right moment to approach you. Emma took another step forward, closer to Jasmine now. The moment when you unlocked your potential. Jasmine's confusion deepened. My potential? But I'm just good at math. I solved a problem in class. That's all. I didn't unlock anything. Emma shook her head. It's not just about the math, Jasmine. It's about your mind. Your ability to process and solve problems. You've always had it, but today something inside you awakened. Jasmine felt a shiver run down her spine. You're saying I'm some kind of prodigy? No. Not a prodigy, Emma replied quickly. What you have is much more than that. You're part of a select group of people, individuals who have the ability to think beyond the boundaries of the ordinary. To access parts of your brain that others can't even fathom. Jasmine felt a wave of disbelief crash over her. This is insane, she muttered. You're telling me that I have some kind of power? Emma looked her in the eye. Yes. But it's not just about power. It's about knowledge. And that knowledge can change everything. You've tapped into something ancient. But it's dangerous. People want to control it. And they'll stop at nothing to do so. Who? Jasmine asked, her voice shaky. Who are these people? And why me? Emma hesitated for a moment before answering. I can't say much yet. But there's a group. They're known as the Circle. They've been around for centuries, manipulating events from behind the scenes. And they've been watching you. Jasmine felt her heart pound in her chest. The Circle? What do they want with me? They want to control your abilities. They want to use your mind for their own purposes. But you're not the only one. There are others like you, Jasmine. Others who have unlocked their potential. Jasmine's confusion deepened. My potential? But I'm just good at math. I solved a problem in class. That's all. I didn't unlock anything. Emma shook her head. It's not just about the math, Jasmine. It's about your mind. Your ability to process and solve problems. You've always had it, but today something inside you awakened. Jasmine felt a shiver run down her spine. You're saying I'm some kind of prodigy? No. Not a prodigy, Emma replied quickly. What you have is much more than that. You're part of a select group of people, individuals who have the ability to think beyond the boundaries of the ordinary. To access parts of your brain that others can't even fathom. Jasmine felt a wave of disbelief crash over her. This is insane, she muttered. You're telling me that I have some kind of power? Emma looked her in the eye. Yes. But it's not just about power. It's about knowledge. And that knowledge can change everything. You've tapped into something ancient. But it's dangerous. People want to control it. And they'll stop at nothing to do so. Who? Jasmine asked, her voice shaky. Who are these people? And why me? Emma hesitated for a moment before answering. I can't say much yet. But there's a group. They're known as the Circle. They've been around for centuries, manipulating events from behind the scenes. And they've been watching you. Jasmine felt her heart pound in her chest. The Circle? What do they want with me? They want to control your abilities. They want to use your mind for their own purposes. But you're not the only one. There are others like you, Jasmine. Others who have unlocked their potential. The problem is, they don't know what you can do. They don't know the true extent of your abilities. Jasmine's mind was racing. She didn't know what to think. This sounded like something out of a movie, not real life. And yet, the way Emma spoke, the urgency in her voice, it felt all too real. What do I do? Jasmine asked, her voice trembling. How do I stop them? Emma's eyes softened with sympathy. That's what I'm here to help you with. We need to train you, Jasmine. We need to teach you how to control your abilities before the circle gets to you. Because once they know how powerful you are, there's no going back. Jasmine felt a surge of fear and confusion. She wanted to run, to forget everything Emma had said. But she couldn't. Not now. Something inside her was pulling her in. She needed to know the truth. Are you saying I have to fight them? Jasmine asked, her voice barely a whisper. Emma nodded grimly. Yes. And it won't be easy. But I'll be here to help you every step of the way. You're not alone in this, Jasmine. Jasmine felt the weight of Emma's words settle over her. She was in this now. There was no turning back. But what did that mean for her future? What kind of life would she have to lead now? Before she could ask another question, Emma held up a hand. There's something else you need to know. They're already watching you. They've been watching you for weeks. Jasmine's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Someone's been keeping an eye on you. Someone close. Someone you trust. Emma's voice was tight with emotion. Jasmine's stomach twisted. Who? She asked, the words barely leaving her lips. Emma paused, then spoke slowly. Lara. Your sister. She's been working with the circle. Jasmine's world tilted. What? Her voice was a whisper, barely audible. I'm sorry, Jasmine, Emma said softly. I didn't want to tell you like this, but you need to know. She's been part of it for a long time. Jasmine felt the ground beneath her feet give way. Her sister, Lara, the one person she trusted most in the world, had been working with the very people who were hunting her. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. No, Jasmine whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. You're wrong. Lara would never. I wish I were wrong, Emma interrupted, her voice filled with sorrow. But I'm not. And you need to be careful. They've been pulling strings from the very beginning. And they won't stop until they have you. Jasmine stood there, stunned. The world she had known, the life she had lived, was slipping away. Everything she thought she knew was a lie. Emma reached out, placing a hand on Jasmine's shoulder. You have to trust me, Jasmine. We don't have much time. Jasmine's mind spun as she stood there, the weight of Emma's words crashing over her like a heavy wave. Lara, her sister, was involved with the circle? The same circle that had been watching her? The same circle that wanted to control her abilities? It didn't make sense. How could Lara, the one person she had always trusted more than anyone, be a part of something so dangerous? Her hands shook as she gripped the note Emma had given her. She could feel the pulse of the world around her, the quiet, the stillness, and yet, inside her, everything was chaos. Her heart pounded, and every breath felt like a battle to stay grounded in the present. The world she had known, the simple life of a student, had shattered into 1,000 pieces, and she didn't know what to do with them. Emma stepped closer, her voice gentle but firm. You're not alone in this, Jasmine. We'll figure this out, together. But you need to trust me. Jasmine nodded slowly, her mind still racing. But Lara, why? Why would she be involved with them? Emma took a deep breath, her face grim. There's more to the story, Jasmine. More than you realize. Lara was never just your sister. She was always part of something bigger. Her path, her journey, was always meant to intersect with yours. Jasmine's stomach twisted as she looked at Emma, trying to process what she was saying. What do you mean? What does that have to do with me? Emma hesitated, then began. Lara was part of the circle long before you even knew about your abilities. She's been watching you, waiting for the right moment to pull you into the fold. She knew what you were capable of long before you did. And that's why she's been in your life, why she's always been close to you. She was meant to guide you, not protect you. Jasmine's world tilted. What? Her voice cracked. She was never just my sister. What was she to them? Emma's face was a mask of sorrow. She was part of their plan. She was supposed to be the one to bring you to them. But something changed. You began to see the world differently. You unlocked your potential on your own. And now, the circle is afraid. Jasmine struggled to comprehend it all. Afraid of me? Why? Because you're different, Jasmine. You're not like them. You've awakened something within yourself that they can't control. They've spent centuries controlling people like you, bending them to their will. But you're stronger than they anticipated. You have the power to stop them. Jasmine felt a strange sense of disbelief mixed with a surge of hope. Me? I don't know anything. I just solved some problems. I'm not some kind of hero. Emma shook her head. It's not about being a hero. It's about survival. They'll stop at nothing to get to you. And they'll use everyone you love to do it. Jasmine's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? Lara will come for you, Emma said, her voice heavy with regret. She's been ordered to bring you in. To convince you to join them. Jasmine's mind reeled. I won't join them. I won't let them control me. I know, Emma said softly. But they'll try to manipulate you. They'll use every trick in the book to make you think you have no choice. But you do. You can fight them, Jasmine. You can stop them. Jasmine clenched her fists. She was scared, terrified even, but something inside her was waking up. Something was telling her that she had the power to take control of her own destiny. She wasn't going to let anyone, especially the circle, decide her fate for her. What do I do now? Jasmine asked, her voice steady despite the fear that still lurked within her. Emma nodded. We need to get you to safety first. The circle knows where you are. They're already closing in. We need to get you out of here, away from the school, away from Lara. They're tracking you. We have to move fast. Jasmine's head spun as she tried to process everything. Her mind was a whirlwind of confusion, but one thing was clear, her life was no longer hers alone. There were people, forces, manipulating her every move. And if she wanted to survive, she needed to act quickly. I don't know who to trust anymore, Jasmine said quietly. How do I know you're not just using me, too? Emma looked at her, her eyes filled with understanding. You don't have to trust me completely, Jasmine. But you can trust that I want to stop the circle just as much as you do. They've hurt too many people. And I won't let them hurt you. Jasmine stared at Emma, trying to read the sincerity in her eyes. She knew that trust didn't come easy, not now. But she didn't have much of a choice. She had to keep moving, to keep fighting. Where do we go? Emma turned toward the darkened path leading into the woods behind the school. We have a safe house. It's not far from here. Once we're there, we can plan our next move. Jasmine hesitated, her mind racing. What about Lara? Emma's expression darkened. Lara will come after us. She'll try to find you. But you can't stay here. Not for long. The two women began walking in the direction Emma had pointed, the sound of their footsteps the only noise in the night. Jasmine felt her heart racing. She wanted to believe Emma. She wanted to believe that there was a way out of this, out of the nightmare she had found herself in. But there were too many questions. Too many unknowns. As they made their way through the woods, Jasmine couldn't help but feel that everything she had known had been a lie. Every day she'd gone to school, every day she'd spent with her family, everything had been a carefully constructed facade. And now, everything had fallen apart. But there was no time for doubt. There was no time to question every choice she had made. The circle was closing in. And the only way out was to keep moving, to keep fighting. "Emma," Jasmine said after a long silence. "What is the circle? What do they want?" "They're not just some secret society," Emma replied, her voice filled with quiet anger. "They're the shadow behind everything, the ones who pull the strings, who control the world from the darkness. They're the reason the world is the way it is. And they'll stop at nothing to get what they want." Jasmine felt a chill run through her. "And they want me? They want your mind, Jasmine. Your abilities. They want to control you. And if they can't, they'll destroy you. But you're stronger than they think. And we're going to stop them." Jasmine didn't know if she believed Emma completely, but one thing was certain, the circle wasn't going to stop. They were hunting her, and she had to fight back. As the night deepened and the woods grew darker, the weight of the decision she had to make settled heavily on her shoulders. She couldn't trust her family, she couldn't trust anyone, and yet, here she was, relying on Emma, a stranger, to guide her through this perilous journey. But there was no other choice. The future seemed uncertain, but Jasmine knew one thing, she wasn't going to let the circle win. She would fight. She would survive. And she would uncover the truth.